Today's video is the story narration of Freen and Becky's new series, Cranium. Before starting Chapter 1, I would like to explain the meaning of cranium in simple words. Basically, cranium means human skull, that is, protects our brain bone. Now let's start the story. The 16-seat charter plane that was supposed to fly to Paris was now lying as debris in the paddy fields of the villagers. Officials fear that all 15 people on board the flight, including the pilot and crew, have been killed. The investigation has begun. News anchor's emotionless voice is heard reporting from the crash site. Aviation safety teams and investigating officers barricaded at the site. Rescue dogs were searching for survivors, and firefighters were prepared for a possible fire. How species have adapted for survival. Using this skill to confirm a victim's identity is an essential part of the field of anthropology. Now 20 hours have passed since the crash. Rescue teams are busy searching for survivors. Now Bua stepped towards the incident scene, thinking that this investigation was going to be one of the most challenging assignments of her career. The police officer in charge of the scene lifted the yellow tape and allowed Bua to enter. About 500 meters ahead, officials were busy searching for survivors and securing the debris. Bua saw that there were about 10 emergency responders standing there, but no survivors had been found yet. This moment was really heartbreaking. As soon as news of the crash was received, doctoral student Bua, who specializes in physical anthropology, arrives at the site on the recommendation of her research advisor, Dr. Nasara. Dr. Nasara, busy with an overseas seminar, had sent Bua to assist in identifying the victims. After reaching the site, Bua shows her doctor's student card to the coordinating officer. The coordinator officer verified the Bua's identity and gave her permission to start working at the site. For her, this was her first assignment where she had to use her forensic expertise to identify plane crash victims. In physical anthropology, experts like Bua study the structure of the body and try to understand how species have adapted for survival. Using this skill to confirm a victim's identity is an essential part of the field of anthropology. Now 20 hours have passed since the crash. Rescue teams are busy searching for survivors. Now Bua stepped towards the incident scene, thinking that this investigation was going to be one of the most challenging assignments of her career. The police officer in charge of the scene lifted the yellow tape and allowed Bua to enter. About 500 meters ahead, officials were busy searching for survivors and securing the debris. Bua saw that there were about 10 emergency responders standing there, but no survivors had been found yet. This moment was really heartbreaking. Soon, a young policeman took her to the work tent and said that there would be a briefing in the evening. Till then she could start her work. There were 6 stainless steel autopsy tables installed in the tent. Bua had no idea that how many more people have been called here, or with whom will she have to work further. Expertise in physical and forensic anthropology was quite rare. Bua didn't consider herself an expert. She had just completed her PhD and saw herself as quite junior compared to her advisor, Dr. Nasara. Dr. Nasara was a highly regarded forensic anthropologist who had worked in multiple countries and had over 30 papers published in academic journals. Bua had just finished her final research and was doing her first real fieldwork at this crash site. On the autopsy table in the corner of the tent lay the first pile of bonuses brought back by the rescue team. The bones were intact, some were scattered and some were completely burnt. Seeing this, Bua took a deep breath and, after wearing gloves and face mask, started working. The first bone that she took out from the pile was someone's clavicle, that is, collar bone, but some of the tissue was still intact, and when it is collected in one place like this, it becomes more difficult to investigate. Usually when collecting forensic evidence, the area is sealed and the evidence is carefully categorized to accurately identify the deceased. Bua continued her work with steady hands and focus. This was just the beginning, and she knew that this investigation was going to be quite demanding. About 45 minutes later, a sarcastic voice echoed from the entrance of the tent. "I was just wondering who would be here." There was a slight softness in the voice, but sarcasm could not hide from it. Then she said that perhaps she should not come here. Bua looked back and took a deep breath for the second time. Looking away, she asked herself why she remembered this voice, even after so long. She did not like this feeling at all. Finya, a recently graduated young doctor, was wearing a light-colored shirt and neatly folded sleeves. She was standing at the entrance of the tent wearing dark trousers. Her hands were in the pockets of her pants, and her long brown hair was swaying lightly in the wind. Her eyes were fixed on her Bua. Bua said, "Welcome," in a cold voice. "Really?" Finya replied with a hint of sarcasm. Without looking at her, Bua, turning her attention back to her work with mild displeasure, said that if she had known that they were going to call Finya also, then she would have never comes here. Finya was once a student of Dr. Nisara, just like Bua, but one day she caused quite a stir. Rumors spread throughout the building that Finya had accused her advisor of being biased toward Bua. After that, she resigned and went abroad to continue her studies. Since then, Bua hasn't heard anything about her. Finya always used to say sarcastically that Bua was the teacher's favorite, although Bua never paid attention to this because she found it all ridiculous. But one time, when their seminar topics ended up being the ones the teacher had to present, their relationship worsened even more. Eventually, Finya created a scene and resigned. Bua decided it was better not to argue with Finya and focused on her work. Bua's ignorance eventually led Finya to the autopsy table, which was filled with charred bones. Noticing Finya approaching, Bua finally looked up, adjusted her glasses with the back of her hand, and asked with slight irritation and anger if Finya needed something from her. Finya replied with her sharp eyes that she did not want anything from Bua. Bua took a deep breath and lost her patience, and in a stern voice said, "If you don't want anything, then go away, because she has come here to work." Finya sarcastically said, "Aren't you at least happy to see your old friend?" Hearing this, Bua stared at Finya's face from behind her glasses. There was a light smile on her lips. "Friend, your way with words is remarkable," Bua replied. She picked up one of the victim's skulls, but her gaze remained fixed on the lady who had just called her a friend. Because they were not friends, not at all. Bua further said that there is a theory that modern humans have a larger frontal brain, due to which they could understand complex analytical thinking and logic and reasoning better than ancient humans. So help me, and behave like a modern human. On hearing this, Finya caught hold of Bua's wrist, pulled her closer, and said angrily, "Control your tongue." Bua pulled her wrist away and said in a cold tone, "If you can't do anything better than just standing here and bothering me, then help me. We'll fight later." She placed the skull down, took out gloves from the toolbox, and handed them over, saying, "Move that pile to a separate table." Finya silently shrugged and took the gloves. It reminded her of how often this happened back in class. Every day, they'd argue about something, and Professor Nisara would have to step in to stop their fights. Bua, fed up with their bickering, preferred to do her research when Finya wasn't in the building. But today, the two were once again standing face to face. They began their work. Passengers' body parts were scattered all over the area. The aviation department was still unable to determine the cause of the crash, and the investigation continued in collaboration with several other departments. Finya asked Bua if she had a magnifying glass. Bua asked irritably why she came to work empty-handed. Still, she took out a magnifying glass from her toolbox and handed it to her. Finya replied that she had come here straight from the airport. Bua couldn't hold back her sarcasm and said, "Maybe they ran out of people, so they had to call you." Finya challenged her, saying, "Your tongue is still just as sharp. You'd better be careful around me." Bua took a deep breath and focused her attention back on the important task. And with this, Chapter 1 ends and my video also. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.